Yes, I'd like to report a crime, and I want to do it anonymously. Hey, hi, how are you? You know, just like that video, anonymous reporting of crimes is nothing new. But quite often, questions similar to this one get asked. Now, paraphrasing here, can I report anonymously to OHS the unsafe production speed of meat production plants that I've worked in Canada? This speed wears down employees with both physical and mental stresses that are unreported because they're not addressed due to fear of losing the jobs. Companies should often be visited by government agencies like OHS, and even when visitors visit the production line, speed slows down but then speeds back up again when they're gone. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome, and I hope this does provide you the answer. Now, I did ask this user if I could answer the question in a video, and they said yes. I also offered to blur out their name, and they've further obfuscated it. And there's reason for this, and I'll allude to that a little bit later. But first, the short answer to the original question. Yes, in Canada, we can report OHS violations and issues anonymously, and in the US as well. And there's actually whistleblower protection in place, and we'll talk about that more in a bit. Because, well, there's more to it than that. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to address three things. One, how to go about it so that your report will be taken seriously, and hopefully you'll achieve what you want. The safety of workers at the job site, because
in an investigation, details matter.
Yes, in an investigation, details matter. Two, I'm going to address the things that you should avoid, so, well, it'll also help contribute to that main goal in point one. And finally, three, I want to talk a bit more about whistleblower protection and what it means and some examples of disciplinary retaliation. Partly because, well, one thing that's notable in the comment is that it notes reprisals. Now, these aren't unusual. After all, one can argue it's kind of human nature to a certain extent. And I'll talk about that a bit later. In addition, at the very end, I will share an invaluable tip that's come in handy for me, and if I don't use it, I tend to fall on my face, so stick around for that as well. Now, production lines of any kind are prone to speed, and that's a requirement because, well, it's about production, and with that speed and prolonged pace is production, and after all, that's what drives profit. No business can survive without profit, but profit should not come at the expense and the sacrifice of safety of the workers that are the vehicle of said profit. Quite often, these production lines are being accused of being unmanageable. Now, to be quite clear and perfectly clear in this, I really have no experience in manufacturing of food processing plants. But I do understand having to work at a fast pace and the ripple effect that can take place. In other words, if things get behind on one end, that event has a cascading fault effect that holds everything else up and thereby affects production. So speed and pace are always an issue. I used to work in conventional logging at the landing level, and I experienced it quite regularly. If you weren't moving fast enough, everything started piling up behind you and there's nothing you could do. You would end up holding production up. So I understand it. But anyway, back to the process. Now, every jurisdiction in the West allows for anonymous reporting. It can be done via phone or online. Both methods are usable and quite readily applicable. The one thing you have to be is knowledgeable about every jurisdiction's subtle differences. So I encourage you to do a bit of research before you pick up the phone and start clicking a mouse. But there's some common pieces. And what I mean by that is just that every jurisdiction is going to have a methodology of how to report and what the online reporting will look like or the phone reporting, but you should be knowledgeable of it beforehand. But like I said, there's some common pieces. Everyone is going to want to know what the organization's name is, the nature of the complaint, the relative dates, the supervisor's name, other pertinent information, and I'm going to address these in depth in just a sec. But one big important thing to note is that most jurisdictions may ask if there's a union involved, in which case things can change depending on where you are. So make sure that if there's a union involved, the OHS authorities might ask you to go to the union first. And if you've already done so, they may want more details, such as when did you go? How often did you report? What was the result? So by and large, go, if you're working in a union environment, see your union first, no matter what. In addition, and I have to be brutally honest here, I've dealt with a few of these things in the past, and having OHS officers come to the worksite and investigate is not anything that's new to me. Now, they've come to investigate the organization, not me, but honestly, it isn't difficult to figure out who made the complaint. You don't have to be Sherlock Holmes.
Who ratted me out?
And no, the OHS officers never say who made the complaint, but it isn't difficult to figure out context, is what I mean. But this is also why there's whistleblower protection in place. Now, when I figured out who reported or what group reported, I never did anything. To be honest, there was really no valid complaint ever and that I dealt with. Most were misunderstandings or they were trying to force an agenda of some kind. So just a quick sidebar here, and I'll tell you one of the examples. I was looking after an asbestos abatement for a section in a building of an organization I worked for. And as a result, an occupational hygiene officer showed up and wanted to investigate. They had a complaint that no precautions were being taken, so they investigated it and found that nothing was at fault. Everything was okay. We passed with flying colors. But that's just the case. That happens. But it still took time to resolve the investigation, which resulted from the complaint. Which leads me to today's sponsor, Site Report Builder. The sponsor of today's video is Site Report Builder. It's a versatile web-based software app that harnesses the power of AI to write reports, industry-based reports. Using nothing more than your phone, you can record clips the same way that you would jot down points in a notebook or on a checklist. You see something you'd normally note, shoot a quick video narrating what the point is. Then drag the videos into sitereportbuilder.com and let the AI do the rest. The AI analyzes the clips, then provides a generated report that you can further tweak and edit afterwards. But only if you want to. To be honest and truthful, I didn't have to do too much when I was writing my reports. And yes, you can try it before you buy it. All new users get 30 bonus credits, equivalent to about half an hour of transcription, or if your videos are no more than 30 minutes, 30 videos. During this trial, you'll have access to all of the Site Report Builder features. No watermarks, no hidden hooks, just an honest-to-goodness free trial. But once your credits are used up, you don't have access to anything but your existing reports. However, all you have to do is upgrade to one of the paid plans in your back-end business. Start with a basic plan and then scale up as needed. Now, Site Report Builder has also done our Provoking Safety community a big favor. The first 100 users that subscribe to the service get a discount of 25% for the first 6 months using the coupon code KEVIN25. That's KEVIN 25. All other users receive a 10% discount for life using the coupon code KEVIN, KEVIN. So check the description in this video for links and more information. Anyway, back to the video. About OHS officers coming to the site to investigate, by all means, it would have been way easier with Site Report Builder. But honestly, I don't mind people keeping me on my toes and challenging me. In fact, let's be honest here. If you're a safety professional and somebody isn't challenging you or questioning you, well, you really have had it quite easy, or you haven't been a safety professional very long. It's the nature of the job. Having said that, though, there's employers and supervisors that don't take kindly to having their methods investigated. So it's important that you have your facts straight when you launch your complaint. I know getting to the point in this, the preamble was a bit long, but it's important. When you're going to do the right thing, you have to do it right and get things right from the start.
Details matter.
So yes, to quote Reacher, in an investigation, details matter. So get your ducks in a row. Do you have times recorded, or at least something very close, in very close approximations? You got to note that inconsistencies and ambiguities might not be taken seriously, or they may cause difficulties in an investigation, or give an investigator a twinge of concern about the complaint, or maybe all of them. Saying something like, "I think it was last week sometime," will not help your case. Don't get me wrong, it will still be investigated, but your attention to detail will likely garner more attention and validity for your complaint. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you've noted places, locations, plant locations, site locations. Context is everything, especially when there's a possibility that other workers in the area might be part of the investigation, or it might be simply about the location. So be as precise as possible with locations and times. The next thing, What was the unsafe action? What makes it unsafe? What made the situation unsafe? Is it direct noncompliance, or is the absence of controls? If so, what controls? In other words, you as an employee or other employees, are you encouraged to perform tasks in a manner contradicting the legislation? Let's say, such as working at heights without controls because it's easier, quicker, faster, without having to set up those pesky guardrails. Just an example. No, never seen it before. Not once, never. No. Are you forced to work without controls? Let's go back to those guardrails. Did you want to erect guardrails, but you were told not to because, well, it takes too long and you got to get it done? So yes, details matter. Be specific. There's no need to talk about what code or regulation you think was violated. That's up to the authorities to figure it out. Just what it is and how you were forced to work in an unsafe manner, or what made the situation unsafe. Now, the next thing, of course, is names. Names of those that are contributing to the unsafe environment. You should be willing to name supervisors and other workers, co-workers that might be at fault in contributing to that unsafe environment, but also workers that are being put in jeopardy. Now, I know everybody hates a rat. Nobody likes to hear from a tattletale. But I want you to stop and think about one thing. Ponder this. Ask yourself this question. How would you feel if you didn't step up and someone did get hurt? So back to the first point. Get all your ducks in a row. If you have to hold off a bit on launching your complaint until you have your facts straight, so be it. Now, let's talk about the next thing, and that's your conduct when you're making the complaint. Let's talk about conducting yourself properly. It's important to note that when you lodge your complaint, whether it's via phone or online, you got to leave malice and contempt out of it. Be professional. It's not about your feelings. It's about a safer workplace. You want to keep workers from getting hurt. Now, remember, I'm a big proponent of safety leadership, so be a leader, be professional, and resist the temptation to take revenge and avoid using terms and phrases that might make you look like you're doing just that. In fact, if you're calling in the complaint, this may mean writing down some talking points, maybe rehearsing what you're going to say, just so you don't get worked up and lose your cool. Now, if you're doing it online, consider using an editor, a word processor like Google Docs or Word. Doing so will help with your grammar and spelling, and also reading it prior to sending it will be beneficial. Now on to point 3, my third point. And as I said before, many supervisors and employers don't take kindly to having their methods investigated. You may very well get found out. But let's be honest, most people don't care for it when they're being investigated, even if they're not at fault. It tends to stir up some bad feelings, and of course, revenge is not unheard of. But fortunately in the West here, Canada and the US, we have whistleblower protection. In fact, you can complain about resulting disciplinary actions or retaliatory actions from you being the whistleblower. Now, some things might happen. You might experience all or some of the symptoms of, just kidding there. You may end up having your normal duties affected, getting all of those beep jobs, or getting your hours cut, or getting transferred to a location that's inconvenient, one that may make going to work a little bit difficult for you. Or you may end up getting demoted. Possibly, though, even, nothing as subtle as the above, but you might just get outright disciplined for making the complaint. So if you're experiencing what appears to be retaliation, you may want to follow up with that whistleblower complaint. Finding out how to do so, by the way, really is nothing more than a Google search away. I would like to list all of the ways to do it, but there's so many differences, I just don't have time. So do a search. And it's important because you want to note any differences in the jurisdictions. Say here, for instance, in Alberta, officers can dismiss what they consider to be as a complaint frivolous or vexatious or something that's done with malice or revenge. So to be quite honest, once again, follow that same principle I outlined. Make sure all your ducks are in a row. Make sure you have all your facts straight. Be professional, because no matter what, you have to do the right thing, but you have to do that right thing right.
I want to know about that tip.
Oh, yes, that final tip I talked about. Good on you. I have a friend of mine. He has a gem of advice that he often shares with others, and me included. And when I don't follow it, well, things don't often go as well as I thought they should. And here it is. Once you've prepared everything for the complaint or wherever, sit on it for a day. A good idea today will still be a good idea tomorrow. Either way, sleeping on it doesn't hurt. And of course, if the issue is emergent, though, and somebody without a doubt is going to get hurt, report it immediately. But really, when you get right down to it, this is safety leadership, stepping up and doing the right thing, but doing the right thing right. And when you're making these complaints, just to sum it all up, be professional and be a leader. Okay, I hope I answered that question. And if you've got comments about it, please let me know below. In fact, keep the comments coming. Keep bringing the questions because I appreciate them. I love hearing them and I really enjoy answering them. Okay, take care. Bye for now.